Hello, friends. Chris Corsi here, President of Thrive Today, and I want to welcome you to the Relational Skills in Real Life podcast. Today's topic is a steep mountain, but I feel like it's going to be an important mountain to climb because let's face it, we all struggle with loss. We all have times in our life where we felt alone, disconnected, abandoned, rejected. Everybody has loss at some level. And so, what I want to focus on today is why is loss so hard to deal with? That's right. Why is it so hard to deal with loss? And what can I do to better get my feet under me relationally so that I can manage loss and grow some capacity to stay relational and suffer well and be able to process the pain of loss? So, friends, this topic's been on my mind for quite a while. So, I'm really excited to be able to talk about it today because I've been working through loss in my life. I've been working through loss, even though I'm 49 years old. There's still been times in my life where I felt some loss, I felt some abandonment. And I hear from a lot of people who are also surprised at why they're dealing with some loss. And why is the feelings of loss coming up later in life, even though some of these, the traumas and the hard stuff that happened was from early in life. So we're going to tease that out today. I feel like this is a timely message for all of us today because we all struggle with loss. So one of the 19 skills that we train at our Thrive training events is skill 18, learning solutions for the 5 kinds of pain. We all have pain that's been unprocessed. And so one of the things that we tease out at Thrive is in our track 3 is to really help people recognize how your brain processes information, what Carl Layman would call the pain processing pathway, and how each level of this pain processing pathway needs certain ingredients. And when we don't have the ingredients that we need, then what happens is there's a corresponding pain that develops. And so learning to recognize the 5 kinds of pain means that I can recognize what kind of pain you're dealing with right now and what's going to be helpful and what's going to be hurtful. So if I see that you're at a certain level of pain, I'm going to know what's going to help here and what's not going to help. So I'm not going to give you the unhelpful resources and solutions. That's only going to probably make your pain worse because you're going to feel disconnected and misunderstood. So every counselor, therapist, pastor, leader, teacher needs this skill because all too often we inadvertently end up spreading pain and amplifying and enhancing pain in people when we use the wrong solutions. And of the 5 kinds of pain, there's only one that resolves with words and communication. So that means 4 kinds of pain are not resolved with us giving someone more information. Well, that right there says a lot because in the West, we like to give people information. If we can just give them more information, they should be fine. Doesn't work that way. And so at the foundation of the emotional control center in the right hemisphere is your bonding circuit. And your bonding circuit basically wants security. I want consistency and predictability to my needs. And when I have a consistent, predictable response, then what happens is I build security with my family and with my community. And after the bonding center gets what it needs, then our survival circuit at level 2 is paying attention to, am I safe right now? So at level 1, bonding, we're just looking for a familiar face. At level 2, it's like, okay, what's happening on these faces? What's happening in this room? Am I safe or do I need to be guarded? So level 1 wants security. Level 2 just wants safety. And then in 1/10 of a second, your survival circuit will develop opinions at maybe somebody looks angry. Well, I better monitor that person. Or maybe there's a bee on the window. I better monitor that bee. So your level 2 survival circuit's always monitoring to keep you safe and keep you alive. It's your self-preservation circuit. And then at level 3, what we're looking for here is to feel seen. So we want to feel seen. We want to feel like people are with us and they're in this with us, whatever's going on in us. We want to connect and feel seen and feel understood and feel heard. And so our level 3 is all about, hey, let's weep together. Let's rejoice together. Let's share this together. So level 1, security. Level 2, safety. Level 3 is to feel seen. And then up the control center we go to level 4, which is, okay, how do I be satisfied with what's going on here, and how well I can stay my relational self. So your level 4 is always trying to keep you. How do I stay me right now and not get lost, right? So being satisfied is really what the level 4 is all about. How do I stay me in satisfying ways? So we've got security at level 1, safety at level 2, feeling seen at level 3, being satisfied at level 4. And then when all of that's working well, then what happens is the left hemisphere comes online with the right hemisphere. And now your left hemisphere and your right hemisphere want to be synchronized. So that means that your words and your emotions are working together, that you're building a coherent narrative for what's going on in your life. And so your level 5 is always just wanting to make sense out of things. Why is the sky blue? If God loves me, then why did this happen? So we're always trying to make sense out of it. So we want to be synchronized at level 5. Our emotions and our information match. So we call it naming and knowing. My naming is matching my knowing's matching my naming. So secure, safe, seen, satisfied, synchronized. Those are the 5 levels of pain. And what we're going to focus on here is level 1, secure. We want that security. And so loss in the form of abandonment, isolation, rejection, loneliness, death, and lack of connection, when we need connection, will create level 1 pain. And so a lot of people wonder, why is loss so hard to deal with? Well, to understand why loss is so hard to deal with, we have to understand A and B traumas. So the life model talks about painful absences as the A traumas, which is just, I didn't get what I needed. I needed hugs. I needed to know that I was loved. I needed connection. I needed, whatever it was. I needed some joy. B traumas are those bad things that aren't supposed to happen. So this is where we think of abuse. And that's normally what we think of with trauma. But both absences and bad things are both traumatic. And loss arises when we don't have what we need to manage what we feel. So what happens is when I don't have what I need to manage something, then I feel alone, and my survival circuit will respond to my level 1 saying I feel alone, and my level 2 survival circuit will say this is bad because I don't have the skills to handle this. I don't have the support. I'm feeling alone. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the ability to process it. And so what's happening is my level 1 is feeling alone and lonely. My level 2 is saying this is bad. We're going to die if we don't get what we need here. And so what happens is your brain's control center is going to have strong opinions about this. And when we don't get what we need to be able to manage something, then eventually that can be stored as a traumatic memory. And when something's stored as a traumatic memory, I don't finish the processing. I don't finish going through those 5 levels so that, I don't get to level 3 to feel seen, heard, and understood in this. I don't get to feeling satisfied by this. I don't get to feeling synchronized to make sense out of what's going on. And so loss often comes up later in life, and people are surprised. Why is this coming up now? I haven't thought about this in 30 years. So what happens is when you don't have capacity to feel, share, and quiet certain emotions and pain, like attachment pain, what we call loss at level 1, where I felt abandoned or alone, then what happens is your brain basically disconnects from that pain so you can survive and you can function. So you didn't have the capacity to be able to feel, share, and quiet this stuff, to process this stuff, so it wouldn't be recorded as a traumatic memory. But it gets recorded as a traumatic memory when I don't have what I need. Now, later in life, I have more capacity than I did when I was younger. So what happens is later in life, when I have more capacity, guess what? These feelings start to come up, and I start thinking about some of that loss. I start reacting, and some of those feelings start to come up to the surface. And I'm thinking, why is this happening now? And what I tell people is because you've been working so hard to grow capacity over the years that your brain is ready. Like, okay, we've got this rock in my shoe. It's causing me to limp. I'm tired of it. Let's deal with this. And so you've grown the capacity, the safety, the stability, the security to be able to process the pain of loss. And it is hard because your brain has to resolve and process that pain. So all of that pain is now loaded and to certain degrees. And now how do I handle this? How do I stay out of enemy mode? How do I stay relational? How do I quiet these feelings? How do I process this pain? And so we want to keep growing capacity. But one of the things we have to do is stop using what Ed Corey calls beeps, which are the behaviors, experiences, events, people, and substances. These are the beeps are what we use to disconnect. That's where we get addicted to certain things to try to numb the feelings of loss. And so what I call imposter skills or pseudo skills are the skills that I learn instead of learning relational skills to return to joy or to rest and quiet and build joy and so forth. I have imposter or pseudo skills that I use. So part of what we have to do is start learning relational skills so that I can actually recover and quiet and get back to joy and peace. I have to stop using the beeps to actually feel those feelings. If I don't feel the feelings that's coming up, they will keep coming back. My brain wants to feel that wave of emotion or that wave of pain that's coming up. And all too often, our survival circuit says, that's bad, get away from it. We run from the feelings rather than stay present and feel them and share them with the safe people and quiet them. So that's what your brain needs to do. But one of the reasons it's so hard to process losses because we run from the pain or we disconnect from those painful feelings rather than facing them, feeling them, sharing them, and quieting them. So that's what your brain needs to do. And in order to effectively do that, you have to stop turning to whatever coping mechanisms your brain has turned to. So healing means that we need another mind outside of us to be able to sit with us and validate and comfort us and help us stay present. Now, this can be Jesus. Jesus is very good at this. But I like to tell people that often any trauma under the age of 5, we need someone outside of ourselves to sit with us. It's going to be hard to resolve some of those early life feelings and emotions and pain if I don't have somebody outside of me that helps anchor me so that I can help get back to relational mode. I can feel those feelings, share those feelings, and quiet those feelings. So we grow capacity to better manage the feelings that we've learned to avoid. Even though my brain survival circuit says you're going to die if you stay present, if you stay in these feelings, the reality is no, I'm not. It feels like I am, but actually I'm not. And I can learn to feel it, share it, and quiet it. So we do a lot of returning to joy in this process. And this is why for people, if they don't have return to joy skills, it drags on because they're not getting back to joy and peace. They've got their imposter or pseudo skills that they're using. But we have to learn, how do I get back to joy and peace from sadness, from hopeless despair, from fear, from anger? Those are the big ones when we're working with attachment pain specifically. So the solution here is to grow the capacity to suffer well. We build meaningful relationships that increases our capacity and gives us the safety net of community. We develop pathways back to joy and peace so that we're not getting stuck in these emotions and staying stuck in this unprocessed pain. We're learning to connect with Jesus in the joyful places so then we can carry that into the painful places. So start connecting with Jesus in times of joy and peace before you try to find him in some of those hard places. This is where examples and stories are very helpful from people who've gone before us so that we can hear how they handled the loss, how they handled the hard stuff. And this is often why 12-step groups are very helpful for some people because they're getting examples downloaded to them and they've got that group identity. So often what they're missing are some of the skills that we're talking about, but the examples are very helpful. Having examples from others who've gone through it helps me feel like I'm not alone and I feel like other people are with me. So we grow capacity, we build relationships, we learn relational skills, specifically the quieting, getting relational, and the return to joy so that we know how to get back to joy from the upsetting emotions that inevitably are going to come up. And there's more resources where we talk about building capacity. So our foundational 5 habit builder courses are really effective at growing the capacity to charge our battery so that we can better stay present when some of this hard stuff comes our way. I wrote the Joy Switch book as a simple resource for growing capacity as well. So all that information is in the show notes, but we're training our brain that I will not die, but live even when these big feelings are starting to come up. I can learn to feel them, share them, and quiet them.